Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Yap of Exile podcast, where discussion topics, side tangents, and hot take rants are indistinguishable from one another. I am your host, WhateverMedia, also known as the Rat Lord, and today I am joined by another fellow streamer and content creator. She's known as the PoE UI UX Queen. She is the Crystal King's arch nemesis in Delve. That is right. It is our friend Halcyonish. Halcy, how you doing today?
Good. I'm doing great. I just had like the biggest meal in my life and I love it. So I am like so over the moon right now with just like food happiness and general happiness. And I'm very excited to chat. PoE.
Absolutely. Sounds great. I heard that you talking about this restaurant, I think on stream last night, that it was like you were just going to get like a big melding pot of something.
Yes. It was a ginormous plate of pasta and vegetables. And it was perfect because I didn't eat much today. And so like carb loading after not eating for a while. Oh, there's nothing else like it. It's so nice.
Absolutely. There's nothing better than that, especially if you had like a good workout or something like that and you're like, I just need that. I need that fuel. Oh, that sounds so good. I think
Totally.
now I'm wanting like hibachi or something. Like I want some like rice and veggies. That sounds so good.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone who's hungry, but
Yeah. Sorry,
pasta was
everybody.
amazing.
You're not you when you're hungry. Grab a Snickers, whatever you need to do. You're going to have to sit through the pod before you grab a snack. But enough about food, but moving to a quick icebreaker that we like to do at the start of every pod to kind of get to know every guest. So we like to ask, what is one fun fact that you can tell us about yourself that wouldn't normally come up in a regular conversation? Unless you were asked something specific like that. A quick example is like, I have met the little Debbie, like the girl from the box of cookies in the grocery store. I have met her. She is a now lovely old lady, but just like something off the wall that most people wouldn't be able to guess.
I I don't have a lot of off the wall things. I did think of something which I don't know if I've told before. The problem with this question is that I'm an oversharer. So pretty much everything that has ever happened to me, I've like yapped about without needing to, without reason to. Um, but as you all know, I love video games. And when I was in college, I made a small PC specifically so that I could put it in a suitcase and take it with me on a plane to college. And then I could take it on the way back on a plane. And I had to make sure that it was impact proof. I like padded up the GPU and stuff so it didn't ever get, bounced around too much. And yeah, so now I am a master computer builder after having to build in a tiny form factor.
That is incredibly impressive. I have had not a crazy amount of experience. I'm assuming it's like what, like a micro ATX form factor kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
They are so like they're so cool when they're done, but it's also one of those things that you put the screwdriver down and you're like, I never want to do that again.
Yes,
It's a lot.
yes, this is where having smaller hands comes in handy.
Mhm.
Pun not
Handy.
intended.
Ah, I got you.
But but, uh, you kinda don't realize how cramped the space is until you're looking down at it and you're like, "Huh, I have to, like, figure out how to get the cables through there." And so, yes, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think that is probably the thing that takes me the most amount of time when building systems. So I went to school for like PC repair, like hardware stuff, and so I'm spent a lot of time doing that. But for perspective, my girlfriend's uh, largest finger on her hand is the size of my pinky. I have very big hands, and so I'm trying to like run cables and stuff, and I'm having to do it with like two fingers because my hand won't fit in the spaces. That's honestly what takes the most amount of time for me.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
envy you there.
there's, like, that iFixit kit that comes with, like, the tiny tweezers.
Mhm.
They're much needed more than you would expect.
Absolutely. And magnetic. Oh, get yourself a magnetic screwdriver, friends. It will change your life. It's the best. Oh, sweet. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And that is also traveling with a computer. I just want to say I've done it a couple times. I have ended up with I'm assuming you didn't do one with like any sort of like glass or anything like that.
I think it had glass in it. It was scary, but honestly, the more difficult part was that the computer weighed so much that, like, the lady at the airport was like, "Can't you just take, like, a sweatshirt out? Like, it weighs more than the limit, you're gonna have to pay extra." And I was like, "Literally, the only thing in this suitcase is a computer, I cannot make it weigh less." So,
Did they let you through or did you have to pay more?
she let me through. She was being
Nice.
nice. Yeah,
Nice. Fantastic. You always sometimes you just gotta give them a little bit of pushback and they're just like, "Meh, whatever. It's not worth it. It's fine."
yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, moving past computer hardware and talking about the reason why we build them, and it is our favorite games, Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2. Huge segue there. Um, Talk to me about your zero point 0.5 league so far. I can't even say league start because we're like I'm almost a month in now. But like, what builds have you been playing? What kind of what? How did you get started?
Yeah, it was honestly a really good league start. I didn't think that it was a good idea to jump on the monkey bandwagon with the Spirit Walker, like summoning the tamed bosses and things. I really didn't think it was gonna go that well. I did the Twister start, and the Twister start ended up dealing a lot more damage than I thought it would deal. It's kind of a pain to play because of how many buttons it was. But it ended up being such a good build that now, like, every other build I play just can't really compare to the damage and the tankiness you get from the monkey, and I did try some of the other tame bosses, they were not nearly as good, at least in my opinion, and it makes me a little sad that the monkey is, like, the only or the most viable, and then you get, like, some tankiness just from the, merit of it being a minion build, and since then, I've done one other build, which is a Frostbolt Chronomancer. And that one has been like an interesting experiment because it's a little bit more homebrewed, I would say. A little less people are doing that one. But I am definitely now in the mood to do a more like melee tanky style build. The only issue is that now we have so many other PoE things coming up. Like I just don't have there's so much to do in this league, and I just don't have time to do it all before the next exciting Path of Exile thing happens.
Yeah, that's definitely the big thing right now. Is like I never thought that I would be like, oh my god, we have too much Path of Exile, but I think we right now we have a lot of Path of Exile. We're what 24 hours away from a PoE 1 event starting. We're a month away from 3.29. Who knows when we're going to get the mid league resets for PoE 2? Um, let's like dive into that with just the crazy cadence that we're getting now. We've really ramped up and gone from we need to lock dates to here's a crazy content bomb. Also, no need to lock dates because every like 24 hours GGG is announcing something. So what are your thoughts on this large content shift that we've had in the past couple months?
Yeah, I don't think anything could have prepared me for it. Like it's and the crazy thing too is that I think like every week so far, GGG has some like somewhat sizable update for Path of Exile too. So like in my head, I'm trying to prepare for Path of Exile 1 and the next league coming out for that because I think it's gonna be really good. Especially since we just like Mirage was such a good league, but it kind of just built on the leagues we've already had in the game. And I'm really excited to see something new. I think probably the next thing they do is going to be net new. So I'm like really starting to build up anticipation for that. But then like there's still so much left to do in Path of Exile 2. And yeah, this is probably the first time where I'm starting to feel like I might need to, like, figure out how to take a break from this game before the next Path of Exile 1 league starts, because otherwise I'll just burn out. But then is it possible to burn out when you're having so much fun continuing to grind the same game for hours and hours? I don't know the answer. There's a possibility that I burn out. There's also a possibility that, like, GGG just adds so many new things that that's not possible. I really don't know how to feel. It's so much and it's so good, and also I'm concerned. I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy because I am an absolute degen. We've talked before about the amount of hours that I've put into this game. And for, I believe, zero point 0.5 so far, I have like 100 and probably 130, 140 hours in softcore SSF. And then I had probably another 20 hours in HCSSF. We just got our character to maps. Um, but so I'm sitting, around that 150 hour ish mark. And I just got my full Atlas tree unlocked in HCSSF. I've finished all of the league trees except for Temple. Temple's like halfway through. But I haven't even done everything. Like I've not completed I need to find some certain alloy for one of the challenges before I can complete all of my challenges. And I'm like, I can't even imagine trying to log into PoE1 for the Return of the Ancestors event tomorrow. So I'm like, I don't know. It's just crazy. Are you planning on playing
Yeah.
the event?
I'm gonna play the event only because it's ancestors. If it was any other league mechanic, I'd probably be like, "Meh, whatever." But this was like a league that I was so excited to play and loved so much, and it was, like, early on in my Path of Exile career, and it's one of those leagues where I think we all have one of these where if you think about a league you did early on, you're like, "Man, if I knew back then what I know now, I could have had so much more success. I could have, like, gotten a better build, fought more bosses, had more money, like, done more of the mechanic, whatever." And that was definitely one of those leagues for me where I'm like, now I get to revisit it with all of the knowledge that I have, like, it's gonna be so cool, and I have to play it, but also, I'm like, I'm not gonna have time, like, I really don't know I don't know how it's gonna play out, but maybe I don't tonight, my plan is to do some speed run practice, not actual speed run, but just, like, de-rusting practice, and get ready for the event because I think that I don't remember if this mechanic you can only do in the end game or if you can do it in the campaign or not, but it's just because it's a very nostalgic league for me that I feel like I have to play.
Yeah, I think if I remember correct, and I wasn't playing around that time. This is like kind of like back of my mind knowledge. I think you could access Toda like type stuff in like Act 2 or something like that when the main league was out. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to keep that same thing or if it would be only end game. I feel like with a short event like this, you kind of have to introduce it in the campaign because most of your players aren't able to play enough to like by the time they get to the end game to interact with it. If it's that way, they have like a week left. So I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah, and what do you think? Do you think this is like practice for Path of Exile 2's implementation of Trial of the Ancestors? You do?
I a
I want to hear your
thousand
theory.
percent do. So I don't know what the actual mechanics are going to be like for Toda. What I do know is this: we've seen this before, kind of, and they've said in interviews like, "Oh, we don't develop stuff for PoE1 to as a test in PoE2." And then you have 3.27, which was using PoE2 breach assets to make it look better. And then for zero point 0.5, they basically directly ported over that with the change in the quest line by adding the pinnacle boss, right? So looking at the trailer, as soon as I started watching it, I was like, those are PoE2 assets. Like those assets are so much higher quality than other like PoE1 things that had that same breach effect. Where I'm like, okay, so they've developed all of these assets and stuff already. I think that they are trying to like kind of the same as we are, I guess, is they're trying to de-rust on it and see what they would want to do with it if they were to make it into like 1.0.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either way, but it's kind of interesting because they had a Q&A where they talked about it like they didn't really have any plans for Trial of the Ancestors. They're like, "Oh, it's not gonna come for a while, like, whatever." And then kind of out of nowhere, they were like, "Oh, and now we have an Ancestors event." And I'm like, "W where" I mean, I know that everyone on Reddit was complaining about it, but, it's like it just felt so sudden. So, I guess, I don't know, the peer pressure that we have on GGG, I think is stronger than any of us will ever understand.
Well, yeah, I think that it's interesting, right? Because they have their own separate team now for PoE1. So I think that that helps a lot when it comes to developing this stuff. But the last time that we had this, if we think back to when they announced that they were delaying um, like 3.26, and they were like, oh, we don't know about like when we're going to get that out. And there was a big outcry. Like 48 hours later, they're like, Freesia, check out this event that we've come up with. And sure, had a lot of that stuff like ready because they were like, it's cut ascendancies or cut this, cut that. They threw that thing together so damn quick. So I'm honestly not surprised that like maybe it came up in the Q&A and like, oh, a lot of people are really interested about Toda. We've said that we were going to do it. Ooh, do we have those assets ready? Let's try and throw something together and see what we can cook up. I honestly wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if it was like that.
Yeah, and someone was mentioning to me too, they were like, "I don't know if I'm gonna do it this time, but I didn't do Toda last time, like, I'm not sure." And I was like, "Honestly, there's no way that they just pulled this out for a 3-week event and then it goes away forever. Like, that's just not realistic, so they're bringing this stuff up for a reason because they already have some of it done or whatever, they're planning on reintegrating it, I don't know, but there's no way that, like, we're just gonna see it for this event and then they'll be like, "Okay, that was fun, never mind."
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking what? It's 3 weeks, I think. This event is to like the
Yeah.
16th or something. So yeah, there's no way. Like I don't even know legitimately if I'm going to be able to play it because I'm like I'm not going to be able to play it on launch weekend. And by the time I get into it, I'm like, is it worth like leveling a whole
Yeah, I
character for
know.
it?
That's how I feel as well, like, if you think about how long it takes you like, for a league start where I'm playing, from the literal start, like, every hour that I'm awake until, I'm done with campaign and stuff, like, I'm dedicating, a full weekend, but I don't wanna do that this time around, so it'll be just, like, stretched out time, so by the time I get a character established, it'd probably be, like, honestly, even a weekend just because I'd be playing it more casually, and so then you have, like, no time to really get invested with stuff, and yeah, it just feels so short.
Yeah, and then you have, and we're going to talk a good bit later about the like economy aspect of things and like that versus SSF and kind of style. Like I can see playing SSF, like just trying to experience the league a little bit in that little event. But if you are somebody who wants to play the event to like get on top of the economy too, that it puts you in a really tough spot where you're like, okay, I have to degen this almost to be able to like get there because the economy is only going to be there for a couple weeks. It's
Yeah,
just it's
especially with
odd.
the tattoo that gives you an ascendancy notable. A lot of people have been talking about that because you kind of feel like you have to play the event for that tattoo because it's going to standard, and obviously tattoos, once you scour them, they're gone forever, so, there's gonna be a very limited supply, and they won't be rotating around characters, so that is gonna add an interesting element of, like, you have to play for standard if people care about standard, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a good point. And there are people who do that. Like I think there's like that like 1% of people who are like, oh, I need to be able to min max this to be able to take it back to standard. But um it's interesting. And I don't know if they are planning I don't know if this is like a testing ground for PoE2 specifically, or if it also is like trying to get it back into PoE1 because they've said for a long time they wanted Toda to be like back in the standard rotation of mechanics, right?
Yeah. I thought
So
about that too. I was like, there's a possibility that this is also just like they end up taking out a mechanic that they don't like and adding in Toda or just adding it in on top, which feels like there's so many mechanics at this point. But I was thinking about that too. Like, I think early on I said like if the mechanic is exactly the same, it's probably for Path of Exile 1. If the mechanic feels refreshed, it's probably for Path of Exile 2. I think that's my current theory.
yeah, yeah, I'm thinking it that is yeah, we're just gonna have to see when it comes like tomorrow and just see what people are thinking with it being refreshed like that. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to dive into it. I hope that it's great and I hope people enjoy it. I'm also worried if I was to dive into it, that I'd just burn myself out on PoE 1 before even 3.29 launches, you know? Like, I'd be playing that
Yeah.
event, and then a week later after the event's over, I'm like, "Oh, league launch time." Like, that already right now, I'm like, "I don't have enough time to do all the things in PoE 2 I wanna do before the end of July." So, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm usually very strict about I do not like to swap between Path of Exile games between leagues. I really feel that, like, taking the time away from each game, even though you're playing, like, a very similar game, uh, by playing the other one, like, taking the time away from one game to play the other, like, I think that that separation, at least for me, is quite important, and like I said, if it was not Toda, I'd probably be not caring as much, but because it is, I do, and so typically, I don't go back to Path of Exile 1 until League start. I don't go back to Path of Exile 2 until League start, but this one, I am making an exception.
Sometimes you have to make the exceptions. It's something special to you, and that's what matters. So hopefully it is just an absolute blast and you can enjoy it. But hopefully it's not something super crazy that you have to dedicate a ton of time to enjoy it. Hopefully you can just be casual and still be able to get out of it what you want to get out of it. Because we do need to de-rest because 3.29 around the corner. I mean, we're about to get a new PoE 1 league after getting this insane expansion. What let me think here. What do you think about what they could be doing for that league mechanic? So you said that you're expecting 3.29 to be like net new. So we saw mercenaries, which are net new ish kind of in 3.26, and then we had a league redo in 3.27 and then enhancing all leagues in 3.28. So they've had a lot of time in theory to cook up something crazy. What's your biggest hope for this league mechanic?
Yeah, I think every time I have made a prediction about what I think it's going to be, I am completely wrong. So honestly, you can use this as like a what won't happen because my predictions are typically this so bad. But so the other thing about this too is like they took a lot from Diablo 2, and I didn't realize that until I played. I started playing Path of Exile before I ever touched Diablo 2. I touched Diablo 2 for the first time a couple months ago, and I was like, "Oh, every mechanic from Path of Exile is in Diablo 2." And so I don't really have that much knowledge of, like, what mechanics are left to steal are left to be inspired from Diablo 2. So, maybe there's something in there, like the mercenaries was from there, obviously. But I the only time I could see it being a rework is if the rework is so drastic that it completely changes the mechanic. Otherwise, I think one thing I'm kind of waiting for is I think there's probably gonna be like a metamorph rework at some point, and it's been a while since we've gotten metamorphs, so that could be something. But I honestly I don't have like a thing I don't have a real prediction for what the mechanic will feel like, but I do think I don't know, I'm excited for something new after, like, all of these reworks we've gotten between both games, actually, for the last, I don't know, 6 months or so. It just has felt like a lot of polishing up what we already have, and so I'm like, I want something crazy and interesting.
Yeah, I think that we could get something crazy interesting here. The thing that makes me think that I think you're right in that it's going to be net new. I don't know if it's going to be something, if there is anything left from D2 to steal, because now I feel like it's much more of like the PoE 1 teams kind of thing on them wanting to do it. And then I feel like they're more like running it by Mark and Jonathan rather than like them, taking the helm. Um, and so I, my personal tinfoil hat prediction is that they're going to do something super crazy and bring harbingers back. Like they pull them out just for a little bit and then they're reworking some stuff to bring our little blue dudes back. in a new way. So I don't
That
know
would
what
be
it'll look
cool.
like, but
Yeah. I would love that. I think the Harbinger implementation they had was pretty boring and not very fun. And even the juiced Freesia version, because during Freesia you could like get all boss harbingers and you had like 40 per map and they each drop like double currency. And I did like the most juiced version and I would get like 20 chaos per map, which is not all that much, all things considered. That's like, I don't know, that was like a fifth of a divine or something like that at the time. So I would be really excited to see them do something interesting with those guys after the mechanic just felt so shallow before.
yeah, I'm hoping that they'll do something cool. The biggest issue I had with Harbingers was like you would have these big loot explosions, but it's all in shards. And so I'm like breaking my finger picking up all these shards. And then you really, yeah, you leave the map and you're like, oh, I actually only picked up 9 chaos and alteration out of that. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
It was really rippy too. I tried doing some in hardcore, and that was one of the worst mistakes I could ever make, I think, in PoE1. So I'm hoping that it's going to come back and it's going to be a lot better in that way. Um, is gosh, yeah, it definitely was aging. I think one of the only
Yeah.
old league mechanics that has aged well is Delve. But even that needs a little bit, just a little bit of love. Needs a little bit of love.
It needs a refresh for sure. It just and Delve is one of those where it feels so simple to make updates to it because it's like you just recycle a few of the encounters and you get like a much better feeling mechanic. Just taking out some of the like I don't know, some of them that are super basic, um, that so easily could be replaced with some of the new mechanics, and even, like, they updated the breach mechanic in Delve, but the breach is, like, still the one where you touch the hand and it expands outwards, but because it's in Delve, you're expanding outwards into, like, these narrow paths, which, as you know, is, like, the most annoying way to do Delve is when you're, like, in a very closed space, and, uh you're in the darkness because it's Delve, so it's just, like, doubly bad, so it's like it is like the what's the right word for, like, the forgotten child or, like, the
Mm.
the ignored child? It feels like that.
Yeah, it definitely needs. I think it's coming soon because I think that they saw with when they reworked the fossils and stuff, how many people were like, yes, like Delve has purpose again. So I think they're gonna have some attention on it. Um, but talking about the like currency farming part, like when you mentioned it with harbingers and stuff, and we can kind of this applies to PoE1, but it'll circle back into PoE2 as well. I want to talk about a little bit of economy stuff. So I am not a trade player normally. I played like 200 hours of trade in zero point 0.1, and then I was kind of done with that. I played it a bit in like different leagues with like PoE1 and stuff since. You are primarily a trade player, from what I understand. So, um, I want to talk to you about kind of the differences in those play styles and like how these mechanics really affect. Because when you're going into a mechanic, right, I feel like you're thinking about that currency per hour thing. I don't think about that like at all when I'm thinking about how a mechanic feels. So, I'm kind of curious how that enjoyment happens. How do you enjoy keeping up with this economy of orbs?
Yeah, I mean, I think I care less about divines per hour. I think kind of interesting now, we're seeing a lot of people who are complaining about the divines per hour, uh, I guess, like, benchmark, if you were, like metric is the right word, because I've heard more and more people say recently, like, "Oh, I don't even like divines per hour as a number," and I never have either. I have never been the one who does the most efficient strat just because it makes the most money, right? I've that's I played Delve for so long and it notoriously makes less money than everything else. I have a lot of friends who like to play the meta and they'll do, they're like, "Oh, Sanctum makes the most money, I'm doing Sanctum." I'm like, "I can't stoop that low. That's not it for me." But I do obviously have some calculation. Like if a Mechanic is just not making money at all, and that's how Delirium was in Path of Exile 2 when, the league first started, is I loved the gameplay of Delirium, but I was like, "This just isn't really doing anything." Like, none of the monsters were dropping anything. You do an entire map, and then you click the End Delirium button, and you get 2 splinters, and you're like, "I need 300 of these," and each of those fights is 7 divine at the time. And so you're like, "I've made so little money." It's so frustrating. And so there is a little bit of that, like, and it's kind of interesting too because a lot of times when they, like, fix I think when they fix the feeling for economy players, they also help out SSF as well, just because then it's the same thing where you're not gonna do a mechanic if you feel like it's not really giving you anything. But there was a little bit of that early on, and now I have to strike the balance between, like, what is enjoyable and what makes money, because, like, Ritual makes a lot of money, but I don't really like Ritual, so I don't do it. So there's, like, I don't know, we all kind of have to find the thing that's fun for us, and, like, for me, it's not really the how many divines come out of a thing, it's, like, whether the gameplay loop is interesting, so I think that probably is more of an SSF sentiment than a trade sentiment, but, you know.
Yeah, it is, but you're also, yeah, you're kind of interacting with trade in a way that your main goal is just like you can make that currency still while doing the things that you enjoy, not super optimized for that currency per hour, but you're still able to like buy the gear and things that you need, or being like, oh, I definitely need this upgrade. Okay, then I need to spend today, and maybe I do need to dive into some ritual to be able to just make some quick
Yeah.
cash so I can get this thing. Um,
Yeah, you know where the difference is, I think? It's that I if I need equipment from, like, Breach, for example, if I need, like, a belt that has, like, minion levels on it, like, that's a Breach item, I'm not gonna farm Breach to get it. I'm gonna farm Abyss, right? Like, I'm gonna farm something that, like, drops raw currency or something like that. I think maybe that's where the difference comes in. I don't know if you have that feeling of, like, there's ever something that you need to farm for that you don't wanna do the mechanic for, or if you're kind of like, "If I need this item, I'm gonna do the mechanic that gives me that item."
yeah, I definitely experienced that this league just off the start. So I was playing like a one button almost like supporting fire type build where I'm just like raining arrows from the sky, and it was great. And then I'm getting into like T7 maps like super early in, and a rogue exile drops me Malgaro's gloves, which are the ones that give you a base crit of 250% bonus, and then gives you a bunch of crit chance and stuff. So I was like, ooh, I would be able to do like a really cool like crit ice shot build with this. Ice shot's pretty meta, but I like to do things a little bit differently. And they just made it to where you can level up uniques. I have my favorite unique bow that I can level up and make it better. So I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Okay, so what do I need to be able to upgrade this unique bow then? Okay, I need this specific crest of like the chalice or whatever. How do I do that? Okay, I'm going to start doing the expedition quest line. I did the entire expedition quest line plus 10 more grand expeditions, I think, before I found a single one of the thing I needed to upgrade this unique for this build. And I was like, oh my God, I have spent 9 hours doing expedition before they made it better, desperately trying to get this one item to do a build. That felt really bad. So that is definitely the downside of it. But then you do have the opposite end where I am able to, I know I can target farm uniques and rituals. So I'm going and I'm doing a bunch of ritual and I'm getting all of these cool uniques. So I'm like, oh, I'm not thinking of those as the one exalt unique. I'm thinking of it as, oh, that would work really well in this interaction with this item. So I definitely need to hold on to that because I want to get a few of them and try to corrupt them and see if I can get a good roll on this thing. So that is definitely where those things shift. I'm definitely picking up a lot of the items that a trade player would filter out, honestly. Even when I get to a super strict filter, I have unique set to like semi strict because I want to pick them up just so I can chance shard them. So
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense, and, I have been trying to force myself into some of those thought patterns recently as well, because I realized probably kind of once I started making content is that, like, I've had a lot of success in the game, but also I could get away without knowing much of anything. Like, that is the crazy thing about trade is, like, as long as you know how to do the one mechanic you like to do that makes money, you really don't have to learn anything else, and so you end up in a scenario where you can go through so much of the game and know so little, and so now I'm like, I need to, like, study more and actually learn, like, those interactions with the uniques that, like, do interesting things because like, if you're viewing everything in exalts, then you never actually think about all the interesting problems that the game has to offer. And like really understanding your build in a way that's not just in chaos and divines and exalt.
yeah, because I think about it when I'm thinking about a build and like how I solve a problem with a build. The idea of just saying, "Oh, I need something that's going to do this, so I need to buy this item to upgrade my build." That I would burn out of that loop really quickly. I feel like, and so I'm like, I have to be able to have goals that I can go for that are reasonable, and my character will never be as strong as a trade player character by any means. But I can still do all the content and fight all the bosses and take 20 seconds instead of 3 to kill it or whatever we're gonna do. But then you get more of these dopamine hits of like, oh, like I killed Zash and he dropped a controlled metamorphosis jewel. And I'm like, oh shit, I've never dropped one of these before. And you know, most people would be like, ooh, unID'd, I can sell that and I'm gonna make a good profit. But I was like, I want to ID this immediately and I want to see what kind of weird, like where can I set it in the trees of my different characters and find what notables it'll attach to and see if it's going to be cool. And I spent like an hour just like socking it into different spots, just trying to figure stuff out. And you just don't, you're not going to get that with a lot of trade gameplay. I feel like so. Those are the moments that I definitely am like, ah, yeah, SSF is the way for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I do love about trade is that it kind of provides like a very objective metric for how much you've done in a league and like I guess if you want to like measure success, like how successful you were in a league, because at least where I'm at right now, I'm still kind of like, how much money can I make? Like, how much content can I do? Like, how hard can I push the content? And so, like, knowing like how many divines I've made in the league is actually like a really useful metric for understanding how how difficult of content I could do or, how far I could take a character. Um, but I do yeah, recently I've been wanting to do SSF a little bit more and more because I'm like, there's gotta be a little bit more than just thinking about money all the time, right? Right? So,
But
yeah, that's cool.
yeah, that's where I'm like, I come home from my job and I'm like, I can't think about an economy after I just got home thinking about the economy. I can't
But
do
it's an
it.
economy you can win at, I mean, for the
True.
most part.
Yeah,
So,
you're more likely to be able to win in this one for sure.
yes.
Unless you're gambling for mage bloods, but that you're probably not going to win, guys. Don't do it. Don't. When div cards come to PoE2, guys, don't fall for it. Don't don't gamba till the end of the league.
Do you think they're gonna let us gamble? There's no way they let us gamble div cards in PoE2, right? Where, like, in PoE1, you just like, you click the button and then you either delete it or double it or nothing happens. Do you think we'll be able to do that in Path of Exile too?
I think in the initial implementation of div cards, it won't be there. And then there is going to be an absolute tirade on Reddit and things of people being like, let me gamble my shit. And then GGG is going to quickly buckle on that one. I don't know. I can see it. I can see it happening pretty quickly, if I'm
I could see
honest.
that. You know what? I think that makes sense. They probably will be like, "This isn't that important." Like, I kinda doubt that the developers are doing that. Like, it's interesting, a lot of what we've seen this league is, like, things that ended up in the game are just things that, like, Jonathan played and was like, "I like this," or "I don't like this," which is crazy to think about, but then they probably, on their end, are not really gambling div cards, so they'll probably not really think about it until, everyone is like, "I do this at the end of every league." It's so funny, my friend, just wanted to test something out on standard for, the Toda event, and he realized that every league, he spends all of his money on gambling div cards and runs out of money, and he's like, "I actually have no divines on standard to test the thing I wanna test because every league I gamble so hard that they all go away."
And then you have nothing and everything in standard. Like you want a really good item, and you're like, oh, well, that's 4 mirrors because there's so much currency in that. Yeah, no, no. I even in standard, I do the same kind of thing in PoE2 where I can't. I make so many characters in a league where I end up not having anything in standard because after a league is over, I end up like deleting the characters. Like I actually think I have like one standard character right now just to like hold my username. And then the rest of them I'm like, I need my character slots. And I just off they go.
You just delete them? Do you ever get sentimental about that? I get sentimental. I'm like, "This is my first character, I'm gonna keep it."
I I did that for a while. It was pretty recently that my first like my monk that I had played in 0.1, I'm like, okay, friend, it's time. It's time for you to go. Could I pay for more character slots? Yeah, probably, but meh. I don't know.
I
I have
need
the
to buy more
memories.
slots. Yeah.
Yeah, I have them saved in POB. They're little files in POB that I can always
There
remember
you
them
go.
by.
The POB, the actual game, many would argue. The POB
Absolutely
game.
classic. Oh man. Well, let's speaking of games and talking about like in-game currency things, let's go a little bit more generalized into um we've covered both PoE1 and PoE2 a little bit. Um Both games in their most recent patch have received in-game reworks of different varying amounts, 0 0.5 with literally everything getting gutted and redone. But even 3.28, the Atlas is completely different. The way you progress the end game is completely different. Um, what are your thoughts on these two new end games, and what are some positives and negatives that kind of stick out to you about one versus the other?
Oh wait, are you asking about Path of Exile 2's recent update or both 1 and 2?
So I'm kind of thinking like, what are some things that you like about PoE1's end game, and what are some things you like about PoE2's end game, and like should should they meld? Should they swap? Should they, kind of, oops, so sorry. Should they, I don't know, like like I would take some of the linearity from PoE1's Atlas and bring it into PoE2 a bit. Cause I still feel like after the initial part, there's still a lot of moments where I'm like, well, let me wander around and find this breach biome that I'm like, meh, I'm not super big fan of that. Just as an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that we've ended up like, it's always kind of felt like PoE 1 had a lot of depth, or PoE 2 has a lot of breadth. And I feel like these updates almost magnified that or amplified that because PoE 1, you kind of had the one vector to start out with at first with the Atlas, where it just feels like you do map completion. I mean, they kind of widened it now with the 4 quadrants, but still, you're just kind of going through the rings of tier 1 and then tier 2 and then tier 3 and etc etc. Versus PoE 2, now you get like so many quests all at once. Your quest bar is going off the screen. You're just like, "How do I choose? Where do I go first?" And I do like the direction they took in Path of Exile 2, and I think the end game is, like, so much better now than it was before. But it has been interesting to see the way Path of Exile 1 just doesn't provide you with as many things to do when you first see the atlas, and I think it almost makes it feel, I don't wanna say, like, more achievable, but it feels less it feels like it doesn't feel as overwhelming, I guess. I know a lot of people felt overwhelmed by the Path of Exile 2 Endgame. I don't know if you felt that way, but it definitely is there's a lot going on now, for sure.
Yeah, I felt like I was ready for it, and then I actually got into the Atlas and it opened and I was like, "Holy shit. They're actually this is actually kind of intimidating. I don't know what I want to do first." And I didn't think I was going to get that like decision paralysis when I got in there, so that was kind of a shock to me. Where PoE1, you're right. I don't really have that, and we knew which quadrants would like lead to what boss in 3.28. So you're like, oh, well, I want to go fight like Maven first or whatever. So I'm going to go do like bottom right or whatever it was. Um, for me, I got into that and I really enjoyed the new Atlas progression in PoE1. And I got my 4 Void Stones and I went, all right, I guess that's it. I didn't really like I tried farming and doing a couple different characters, and I just once my atlas was complete, I felt like I was done. Which is interesting because I thought it would be kind of the opposite for me. And then with PoE2, we have like these set endpoints, really. Like you have the ends of these quests, and I finished them, and I'm like, man, but I have so many more things I want to do. Like I want to keep going. So it's kind of weird because it's the opposite of what I expected it to be. Um, how do you
Yeah.
feel about PoE1's like, do you feel like it's quicker to burn out on that PoE1 end game, or do your perspective might be different because you spend a lot of time in Delve as your end game?
Yes. So, yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking about that as well, where like endless mapping in PoE1 has never been as interesting to me as Delve, and maybe it in some ways feels like a continuation of the atlas because the atlas will be like, "You've reached, like, 24 out of 102 points," or 118 points, whatever the atlas has on it. And so I keep looking for a number that I can just watch go up, and that kind of represents, like, how far I'm getting in the game, and for me, that's Delve, oddly enough, now that I'm thinking about it. Um but yeah, that is a really good point and something I didn't think about where once you do the quadrants, it's kind of like, yeah, you could kind of continue like throwing astrolabes at the thing and continue farming. But it's not you're right, it doesn't have that same feeling of like, "Oh, I wanna see more," that Path of Exile 2 now has, because I had the same feeling in the second game where I finished the Breach quest, and I'm like, "No, no, no, I need to find more of these, like, Breach biomes and do more Hive fortresses because you only get 1." And same with, like, Delirium and, um I mean, Abyss is kind of straightforward, but yeah, a lot of those mechanics, I was like, no, 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 I want to see more of them. Like, I don't want it to end at the quest line versus PoE1. I'm like, okay, the number says 118 out of 118. We're good. Or I think it's like 132 now, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's it's interesting. I think PoE1, honestly, talking like mixing in with a little bit of our previous conversation of like trade versus SSF, I focused on SSF and PoE1 after my first like proper PoE1 league in 3.26 because I was like, oh, I want to, like you kind of mentioned, I want to learn the mechanics. I want to learn the things. I don't want to just like learn the one and then just make money. I want to actually understand all of the different mechanics. And I did that for a couple leagues, but now when I finish my Atlas in PoE1, I don't have the goal of, oh, well, now I'm fully juiced, so I can blast and make a bunch of currency and do cool stuff. That appeal doesn't exist there for me. So then I'm like, okay, well, I did all the SSF things, I guess. I killed all the bosses and did the stuff. I have not made it super far in Delve. So maybe that'll be my unlock. We'll see in 3.29 or whatever new league mechanic they cook up. Um, but I think that's an interesting point. Is like PoE1 is going to be more economy focused, where PoE2 now has a lot more of that like exploration over economy mindset in the end game.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that either. That's a really good point. Is it does feel like PoE1 was made for the economy, or I mean, I guess so many people use the economy that they've just continued to build it in such a way that, like, everyone that supports the economy that they already started making. And I think you're right about that, that it feels like Path of Exile 1 is very much like once you finish the end game, now you can just start generating currency. And, that can have varying levels of enjoyment for people. And I think the only exception to like that feeling of like generating currency is like Uber farming, I think kind of gives a bit of that excitement back. But otherwise, yeah, there isn't nearly as much versus like PoE2. Like even if you're not making a ton of money, there's still so much to do, and also you can go do a lot of exploration without making money. It doesn't feel like it's a waste of time if you're not making money in Path of Exile 2, the same way that it does in Path of Exile 1.
Mhm. Yeah, and you're like, if you're progressing towards just like you are just exploring, maybe looking for that breach biome, you are able to kind of mix things up. And I have definitely done this in SSF, but I'm sure it's probably still great in trade. Maybe you're looking for that breach biome for so you can farm for whether it's selling Zesh invites or actually farming for specific currency or items. But on your pathing towards like out into the whatever smoke abyss out there, you are like, oh well, I'm actually gonna just farm abyss as I'm going through these map nodes to be able to get some currency until I run into my breach biome, and then I can go back to doing that. Um, and that I definitely have found myself doing a lot of like bouncing back and forth between what I'm trying to farm. But I could see that happening in trade as well, where in PoE1 you're not incentivized to do that. You're actually almost, I would say you're punished for doing that, for jumping between mechanics.
Yeah. And you know what? The astrolabes have even made that worse because not that they're bad, but like the astrolabes, you can have one in every quadrant, but if you're doing one astrolabe, like you're just gonna see it through with the one mechanic. If you're already juicing harvest like within this blob on your atlas, you're not going to like, oh, let me like try some blight in the middle of it. No, you're gonna continue working with what you already have.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see where they're going to take each end game. I think both have their wins. Like I love PoE1. I love the PoE1 end game. I'm glad that I decided to play it after becoming a PoE2 enjoyer. Um, I think they both serve their own purpose, and I wouldn't want them. I used to be one of those people who's like, scrap the Infinite Atlas, just give me my PoE1 like thing is way better or whatever. Now I definitely want them to continue being different, and I would like for them to even diverge a little bit more in different ways. But I think that they both have some fine tuning to do and some learning that they can gain from one another.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same place as you where I was like, I just don't know what they could add to the Infinite Atlas to make it interesting at this point. Like I knew that something about like the biomes had to have some way to help there, but it does feel so much better. I think I almost would like to see them go further with the biome stuff. I don't even know. It's kind of hard too because now there's like so many that it's kind of difficult to keep track of. Like I'm never gonna remember what the mountain biome gives me versus the forest biome. But yeah, those kinds of ways to navigate your atlas does feel so unique and different, and I think now it feels workable, whereas before I was kind of on the same page where I was like, "I don't think there's a way for them to fix this. They're just gonna have to trash it."
Yeah, that's the biome thing is actually an interesting point that I do want to ask you about. So, um, you said that you hadn't really kept track of like what biomes give you what bonuses, and I definitely was like looking at it when I was like picking my atlas nodes, being like, oh, mountains give me more of whatever versus this. Like I was definitely thinking about that multi-choice, but since then I can't tell you what any of those multi-choices were now. And I was looking at my stash earlier, and I was looking at my like unique tablets, and I was seeing all the ones that turn things into certain biomes, and I was like, oh, I completely forgot these even exist. Like are you, have you interacted with that mechanic at all, like tried to utilize the biomes at all?
No. I mean, even there's I've been doing Etsy farming, and there's a node that, like, allows your temple to be part of a certain biome, and I'm like, "Why would I want that?" Like, I don't know what these biomes are even used for. And so I maybe they just need to find a way to give each biome more identity, or I'm not really sure what the fix is there, but yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm like, I know that different biomes do different things. What that is, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I because even back when we had um what was the node? Local knowledge, the biome one from the old Atlas tree. I think it was where you're like, oh, this biome or swamps give you 40% increased currency, but
Oh, yeah,
desert
yeah.
gives you whatever. Um, I would take that node usually because it's like you could get it really early and give you a little boost of something. And then I would forget about it. Like I know a couple of my friends were like, oh yeah, I go in if I'm gonna do a biome that I don't want a bunch of like ultimatum tokens, then I'm going to go in and unspec that in my atlas. I'm like, I absolutely could not care any less to go do that. But that's so maybe that's also partially me in not having cared about the biomes in the first place. So now I don't think about it even after they made changes. But I was curious about that because they kind of doubled down on the biomes by adding a bunch more nodes for it after 0.5's launch. And I was like, why? Well, like, are people actually caring about that much?
Yeah, and I think too, because the Atlas tree is so big, like, it's I mean, like, trying to find what biomes do like, now that I'm thinking about it, if I were to go back through my Atlas passive tree and be like, "I wonder what the mountain biome does. Should I see" like, that the thought of that is pretty daunting because the tree is so big and there's so much on it. Not to say that, like, it's not worth it to do, but I don't know if there's maybe a way for them to present that differently or to find a way to make that more identifiable, but yeah, it's definitely like I I also might not be the type of player to care about that either, but it also would seems kind of difficult to care about in the first place, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. And I feel that way about some of the other mechanics on the new Atlas tree, which I think it's way better than it used to be, like worlds better than it used to be. But I did not take a single summoning circle node until I had taken literally every other passive node on the tree. And then I was like, okay, well, this is all I have left. So I'm going to just fill it out so I can complete my tree. Um, but I don't feel like a lot of those like kind of side mechanics are really giving the juice that they want them to, or sometimes it's giving juice that I don't want. Like random rares are corrupted and have a spirit on them, and then out of nowhere, I just get my ass kicked. And I'm like, what? This is like a blue map that I'm using to path through somewhere. Where the hell did that come from? So, I don't, how do you feel about like? This is probably a hot button, but not being able to unspec some of this stuff. Like they're like, you are fully juiced and you are
Yeah.
juiced, and that's it.
It's funny that you say that you didn't spec the summoning circles because like out of all of them, I would unspec every other node but the summoning circles. Like I just think those are the most fun. But they're also the most terrifying. I had that experience on my second character where there's a node on the atlas that gives your when you do a summoning circle, like it has the potential to give the bosses like multiple essences. And 3 essences on a boss, on a character you're just trying to level. I know that they have, like, some level requirements on those, but like, I only had T15 maps. I was leveling on T15 maps. Like, that was a death sentence, and so it does feel like there's some work to be done in terms of that, like, force difficulty, and even now, like, I have that node, I haven't bothered to change it, but the node that gives you the boss the shrine instead of you the shrine, there's a lot of maps where I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna click that shrine because that's a regenerating shrine, and God forbid I give that boss regenerating health because I will never be able to kill it. So there are some of those nodes where they just feel annoying, but also the the process of like going back through the Atlas tree and figuring out where the annoying nodes are is also annoying. So I think I don't know. They definitely need to do tweaking on it, and I don't know that it's in such a bad state that they need to, like, do any big changes to it, but I do feel like there are some numbers that need to be adjusted there. I don't think it necessarily you necessarily need to unspec it, but I think they need to adjust some things.
Yeah, I agree. I think that part of it for me is it's strange being able to allocate everything because part of me before, like I had my limited amount of nodes, and it does feel good to be able to like spec into a bunch more stuff. But also, I was able to specifically see those nodes that I'm like, bah, I don't want to deal with that. And I'm just like, well, I won't waste a node on that. But now I feel like I should because I should have all of my things specced. But I was doing a map earlier and I see a rogue exile trapped in an essence with 3 wisps on it. And I was like, well, fuck me. That like what if I was doing that on my hardcore character, there's no way I'm clicking that. No way am I clicking that. And that feels bad because that makes me feel like I've juiced this content and then I'm like leaving free juice there for nothing. And even on a softcore character, if I'm like, oh, I only have 1 portal, I don't want to click that super juice thing. And I don't think that that should be the baseline juice for my content after I've completed my tree. I think that there should be some sort of slightly scaled down way. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
It does. I agree with you. I think it's and I really never felt that strongly about about a tree where you only spec'd into certain things. That's something I know a lot of people have had reservations about is being able to spec everything just feels like in some ways you're taking agency away from yourself and in other ways you're feeling obligated to do certain things that you might not want to do. And I never felt that strongly about it. I'm like, hey, if they want to give us free map juice, like I'll take it. But at the same time, I'm totally with you where if I saw that uh if I saw that exile on my second character, I probably wouldn't click it because I know that my maps have 0 revives and those rogue exiles, with there was one I had where it was like quadruple empowered. I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to kill this, and then you have to, like, sprint to the boss room and hope that it doesn't follow you because they will follow you into the boss room. So, I totally get that difficulty feeling and that feeling of, like, you might be missing out if you don't click it, and so, yeah, I see exactly what you mean, where it feels like you're obligated to do something. It's, can't think of the word, but I it's that feeling of, like, if you show someone, like, they're not quite there yet, they're gonna think that, like, showing someone progress that they haven't gotten to yet can be a double-edged sword is what
Mhm.
I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it can either feel like it's like a goal that you're wanting to accomplish or it can feel really bad. For
Yeah.
sure. I think it's interesting. While you were saying that, I was kind of coming to the conclusion. I think what it is that I don't feel that way about like the main league mechanics because they've implemented a way for us to like essentially block other stuff because we can just do like the 3 tablets. I'm going to go, okay, I'm only dealing with Abyss because that's the thing I like, but I cannot block summoning circles. I cannot block wisps. Previously to this, and they made wisps a lot better. I dropped my first rite of passage, or like not too long ago from like, and it was one of these crazy like. There's 7 wisps in this strong box that let me open it like 3 times, like a stupid like 20-minute interaction, which felt great. I was like, oh, well, that was really, really cool. But I don't want that necessarily in every single map because it's kind of stressful. Um, but then before this patch, I had never spec'd a node into a Wisp ever. And I ignored them completely because I was like, well, these feel bad. I don't want to deal with them. And I could just ignore them. But now they're like spawning in and already being in the rares that I'm encountering, or they're attached to this rogue exile already. But I can't do anything about that except just ignore that enemy or something like that. So maybe there needs to be something like that where you can kind of block these side mechanics.
Yeah, that's a really smart idea actually because when you said that, I am totally on board with that idea. I do feel that way where it you don't really have control over it and it feels like your map could become very scary at any moment, and sometimes you're not even trying, like you said, with the wisps that just, like, are already in the rares, and I have, like, the wisp movement speed, so then they just, like they immediately go, and then sometimes Delwyn summons an extra Sacred Wisp for fun. I'm like, "Dude, I cannot handle this right now, let's not do it," but he does it anyway, and so I do get that as well, and I think that would actually help a lot, is if you could block the wisps out of your map for a period of time and then maybe, like, instead get an additional summoning circle like that, I actually think that would be really, really cool. Because the
Yeah.
summoning circle is really good for delirium.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool if you could like if I could sacrifice being able to have wisps and summoning circles on my map because I'm not a big fan of them, but that's going to give me more essences and rogue exiles in exchange. That would be great because I love farming. That's one of the things in PoE 1 that I loved. I'm excited that I can do it in PoE 2 now is like I loved farming ritual with rogue exiles. So I can just I put all of my first points into rogue exiles when the league started, and then I was going towards rituals, so I can do that kind of farm again. And then they started dropping those cool uniques. So I was like, oh, I can do a cool build with this. That set me up to do the things that I wanted to do. But especially on a fresh start where you start progressing in your atlas so early, and all of the nodes that you can take from the very beginning are into some of these side mechanics. Like if you were somebody who didn't know any better and you just start specking into rogue exiles, and then all of a sudden every map you were just getting your ass kicked by this random rogue exile who's eating up all your revives, and you can't unspec those nodes. So now you're like, ooh, that I don't really, or if I spend all my nodes on summoning circles and I go, oh, well, this isn't what I want to do. I feel like I've wasted all of those nodes because I can't take them and put them into something else.
Yeah, yeah, I had that a little bit. People were giving me a little bit of crap because I spec'd into wisps to start because I was like, wisps are colorful and cute, and I want to spec into them. And people were like, I cannot believe that's where you start on your tree. Those are the worst ones. And I was like, well, here we are, and now we have wisps every single map. Yeah, there definitely is a little bit of that. And rogue exiles too.
But could
They're
you
a little tragic because I wish they were better, but they're not.
Yeah, which they did make them a little bit better now that they don't drop corrupted gear, thank God. But like imagine if you did that at your league start because you wanted to do wisps and then you're like, oh, I actually hate this. And you were like, well, that sucks. That I think that that's one of those feels bad things that they may need to like refine a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things too where they're just expecting people to make progress fast enough that you counteract that by spiking more points. It was kind of interesting to see them also put an experience penalty on maps where you've died in. I was like, they really do not like players who are struggling in the game. If you are struggling with the game, they will just like beat the dead horse. Like they'll kick you while you're down. It's insane.
That that's a really great point. I'm really glad that you brought that up because forgot that that had even happened. And I know that there was some sort of weird farm that people were doing, farming like the same map over and over again and just like not finishing it or something. Maybe 4 XP on like a good layout or something like that. Um, and I understand why they made the change. But it's similar to the life on tree discussion where like I understand what they're saying, but I still don't agree with their point. And I think that you're right. It's really punishing for people who are not that great at the game. Starting out dealing with that, when you deal with all of those penalties, and then if you do you're struggling through these maps and then you get into the fortress and you spec those nodes and you spec the nodes that you didn't really want and you didn't know what they did and now your maps are even harder. um it's noob trappy, which is interesting because that's their big philosophy is like we want this to be not a noob trap. No life on the tree because we don't want people not knowing to pick it. We're going to let you pick everything on the Atlas tree so that you don't feel like you're missing out on stuff. But it's retroactively causing more issues at the beginning, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I do and they've countered themselves a little bit on that point where like sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, we want it to be accessible for new players," and then sometimes they're like, "But we're just trying to make a game for everyone. We're not trying to make a game specifically for new players." So I don't know. I think that they're just kind of going by vibes when it comes to when they should punish players and when they shouldn't, and like uh, sometimes it's their vibes are from a person who's already good at the game and doesn't know how to be bad at the game. And so it's like they can't really see what's happening, but it's also kind of difficult to make the argument because we can't see all of the information they have and they have all of the like more casual player data where we don't really know what that looks like for those people.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Zaki, with your little chaos volatiles, being like, "Oh, I just dodged them," and so I was like, "Oh, I get good, I guess." Um, Patching by vibes, but that is also another good point with the data. I feel like we're definitely going to be moving in a positive direction now that they're starting to there's so many more changes recently where they're like, we went and looked at the top 7 monsters that were killing players the most and went, why is this happening? Oh, it's bugged as shit. And now that they're actually looking at that analytical data, I think that we will be able to solve a lot of these problems a lot quicker. So that is the positive of all of this for sure. And overall, I know it sounds like I'm kind of complaining about it. I love this game and I love this Atlas and I'm having an absolute blast. But I love it so much that I'm going to be critical of the things that just aren't working super well. So it's interesting. It's interesting from that new player perspective too, because I don't die in early maps. You know, I don't die in the campaign, so I don't think about those things very often. So I'm very glad that you actually brought that up as a point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just under the skill cap where I don't die. I'm constantly I
That
don't know,
wasn't
I
targeted.
think
That wasn't targeted.
No, I know, but it is funny, like, I do think that my skill level is I am I have a lot of knowledge about the game. I also have not as much experience in ARPGs as most of the people who have played the game. It's like when you try and play Smash, like Super Smash Brothers with someone who's played since they're like 5 years old, you're just like, I'm never gonna reach that I feel like I'm almost, like, stunted in my ARPG growth, so sometimes I can see these problems a little bit closer than I think other people can, which, um, is a little bit frustrating sometimes, but, yeah, some of the new player stuff, it's definitely it could be improved.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I'm glad, but I'm glad that we had those perspectives because if we only had the perspectives of the hey guys, fub gun blasters, then we're gonna have a bad time. We gotta have some diverse perspectives in that way. So is still valuable. Um I do want to take that talking about things that affect new players as we are moving towards the end of the pod. But I want to talk about one thing that you kind of specialize with a little bit when we're talking about. I saw your content with like some of the Delve stuff, getting ready for 3.27. That's how it originally found your content. And then in zero point 0.4, you had made a certain video for the temple about the temple's UI. That one seemed to have done pretty well and garnered some attention. So looking at zero point 0.5, when it comes to UI UX stuff, how do you feel on the execution on it? Because my feelings are very strong, but I want to get yours first.
I think there's so much to improve. I will say they're starting from a much stronger point than we've seen them start before. Like the Path of Exile 1 leagues, like the stupid like little sliders on the King's March thing, but you can still like put them I don't know. It's just like so fidgety and finicky, which pretty much sums up every piece of UI they make. It's like It's like it works if you know how it works, but if you don't know how it works, it just is very annoying. And so it's like it's starting from a better place, but there's still, I think, a lot to be improved. A lot of how well, I want to hear what is your thought on it.
Okay. Um, so I think the intentions are really good. And I do agree with you. The baseline is a lot better than we've seen. Even going back and playing some stuff in PoE 1, like you're saying, like with King's March and things. I definitely had that moment when I first opened the King's March UI, and I was like, "What the hell? Like, why does this work this way?" Um, but I was very confused going into 0.5 when it came to some of the UI elements. The main one that drove me crazy, and I don't know which mechanics you did first, so you may have not even interacted with this as much. Um, the breach tree, the Genesis tree in PoE 2 felt like, I'm not being dramatic, guys, actual dog shit. It was so bad in comparison to PoE 1. And I was like, I thought we copy and pasted a lot of this, but I'm like, why is it that I have access to it from my stash from this screen, but if I do my normal click to move it from my stash to my inventory, it actually moves it into the tree, but then the other click moves it into my inventory, but it doesn't open my inventory. Like everything was just really jank. Um,
Yeah.
and then like I was doing that, the ritual UI, basically the same that it was, except now the button that you used to click to defer is now up here. And so I go to defer stuff all the time, and I just give all of my tribute to the King of the Mist. And I'm like,
You
fuck!
know,
Like,
I have done that, but didn't know why I did that. You know what happened? The same thing happened in Path of Exile 1. They took out the Horizon orbs for removing Harbinger, right? And so what would happen is every time I would go to click a scouring orb, I would click an orb of regret and use a regret. And I couldn't figure out why that was happening until someone posted it. And I was like, oh my God, it's because they moved it. And the same thing happened in Ritual where I would offer tribute to the king, and I'm like, "Why do I keep accidentally clicking this button? Like, what is it about this thing?" And then someone was like, "Dang, it sucks that this used to be the defer button." I was like, "That's why. They moved it, and now it's permanently different between the 2 games."
and
That's
e-
bonkers to me.
even worse, when you click the defer button in the top and select the items you want to defer, you then click that bottom button to defer. So you still click that old button, but now I'm like, I go to like defer the thing that I'm deferring, and then I have like a Vietnam flashback moment where I'm like, wait, did I click the thing, or am I about to give away all my offering? And I'm like, I should not be scared of the UI. But I experience anxiety when I'm messing with the ritual UI if I'm going too fast. And so I'm like, why? And they made the breach one a little bit better, where now like if you're holding control and you click a womb gift, it'll like change your cursor into this
Okay,
mode.
but that's jank. You can't argue with
That's
me that
jank
that's a
as
smooth
hell.
experience.
That
Yeah.
it is, yeah, like it is a better experience because the bar was in hell. But it's like, I don't understand how, and because in PoE 1, correct me if I'm wrong because it has been a minute, but if I go in and I have multiple womb gifts in my inventory, I just control click, and then I don't have to go click the little button after adding the womb gift. And sure, I have to reopen the tree, but I can at least just like click, 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 and I have like this rotation.
It's very fast, yeah. Yeah,
And
I was also surprised when I got to the breach tree and I was like, "Oh, none of the, like, muscle memory that I'm used to is working here. I'm clicking the thing and nothing is happening." And also, like, I can't there was, like, this weird thing where it would say, like, 1 point left, but you can't allocate it because you haven't, like, discovered a branch on the tree, and I was like, it feels like, there's just some tension here, like, for no reason. I'm like, "Why did they make this just a little bit frustrating?" They just
yeah,
sprinkled that in.
because you get like five, there's a passive on the Atlas tree, you get like 5 nodes or something like that additional for the Genesis tree for the different categories. And I took those nodes and then I opened my tree and it's like, you have like 15 points to allocate, but I could not allocate any of them because I hadn't actually hatched anything yet. And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And I was able to, you know, intuitively go, oh, GGG made this. So let me just like start messing around with stuff and eventually it'll make sense. But I feel like for the new player, the same new player we were talking about with their like death penalties and the fortress, and then they're like, the fortress is making me mad, it's making my maps harder, I'm gonna go do this breach thing instead, and then they get to the breach tree, that they're gonna quit. Like it's just, it's weird, the way that the UIs are working for that type of stuff.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
the one that really I just have to mention because it really frustrates me is the one where they say select one map and like for Delirium, they just put like these like decorative shards on random nodes that signal where you can select the map, and then for Ritual, they like had to improve the UI for the multiple choice options, but now it's locked in, so you can't go back to like update your choices if you accidentally click the wrong thing, you know? And I just think it just is not helping you at all, and that is the one that really like that's the one that would make me rage quit.
Yeah, I definitely have had that a couple times where I've clicked the wrong nodes for sure and been like, oh, I definitely want to go back. The one that got me with Delirium was is like select one map, and I was like, oh, it works because I did the Delirium or like that part after I did some ritual stuff. So I was like, oh, it works the way ritual does, where it wants me to select my maps. And then I click one map and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do this one and this one and this one. I click it and it just spreads to whatever maps it wants from that starting point. And I was like, well, shit, that's not what I thought it did because the other UI that's the same doesn't work this way. I don't know. The content is amazing, but I sometimes am confused how there is not additional passes on the UI elements before it comes out.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm, like, learning things about the currency exchange, like, I'm getting frustrated with the currency exchange, and people are like, "Oh, if you, like, if you press control 3 times and then click and then look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary, it'll do what you want." I'm like, I don't wanna go through that. Like, why is it like this? Same with the price check. The price check is so fiddly, and it's just like, all of these things, I'm like, it doesn't take much to make it good, but it just feels like, it just needed more eyes on it. I don't really understand how it's just a little bit too complicated every time.
Yeah, I think it's I try to give the benefit of the doubt in the way that like I understand it. Because I do understand from like their perspective, they've been working on it for so long in this like they've been using the UI in this like maybe beta stage for so long that they are used to it, and then they're like, oh, it's fine, like that, whatever, and they don't think about it. But I've come to, and I had this opinion with the like locking dates versus content debate that happened before the patch launched and stuff. Um, but I kind of hold this opinion where I'm like, I understand them, and but that can be the reason, but not the excuse for some of the stuff. Like it can be the reason why the UI maybe made it out this way, but that's not an excuse as to why it keeps happening like this. That means that we need to maybe have more focus on that because it gets to us and then we tell you what's wrong with the UI and you fix it usually. Um, but it takes, we're about to get we could get 0.5.4 today. We could get it in like the next hour or so, or it'll launch tomorrow. Will that fix a bunch of these issues? Who knows? But I feel like that stuff needs to be more polished before we get to release.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, like, the one example I always think about is when they redid the Atlas and Path of Exile 1, there were so many people who got to the Atlas and they were like, "What do I do? What do I click on? How do I get to the maps?" Like, there were a lot of people who just didn't really understand how to use it. And it's one of those things where like it's like at this point, like how do you have people who are confused about how to use the atlas? Like that should be something that they're able to solve beforehand. And so I'm kind of with you. Like, yeah, they can continue polishing it. And I got a little bit of debate on this when I was discussing it in point four, where people were like, well, we're the beta testers, so it's natural that the UI is like not that good. And I'm like, it's not though. Like they should be looking at this more through the lens of like someone who's seeing it for the first time instead of like having someone tell you how it works and then just that's your understanding forever and you don't really think about how it would appear to a newer, fresher perspective.
Yeah, I think you and I hold interesting perspectives on it because I know like you work in like software development kind of stuff with I feel like UI elements is one of your big things, right? Am I yeah, okay. That's
Oh
what I
yeah,
thought.
I spend a lot of time on the amount of pixels between a button and the edge of a screen, let me tell you.
Yeah, so that kind of meticulous detail is definitely going to stick out for you where I don't necessarily have that background, but I have been, I've worked in like achieving goals, kind of like almost project manager esque type stuff, where I'm like, okay, for 10 years, I've been leading teams to be able to accomplish things. And my number one thing is I would rather have one thing 100% complete and ready to go than have a bunch of things worked on that are half assed. And I by no means think that GGG like half asses their work. I do not think that at all. But I would much rather see like before we go to work on getting these MTX ready or getting this ready or doing this, like, okay, is Breach 100% UI elements, mechanics, content, everything? Is Breach as a individual product ready to ship? And I feel like there should be more of that kind of thing where it's not just like, okay, all the content is here and now we need to work on the UI for literally everything in the game. I don't think that that is a good way to do it. And we don't have eyes in their headquarters. We don't know what that looks like, but from an outside perspective, that is what it feels like a lot.
Yeah. And maybe that's why it's so frustrating is because we can see the level of detail they put into like the animations and to the like NPC conversations and into the mechanics and the items and all of that. And then it just feels like this one area they don't put that same level of uh like care. I don't know if care is the right word, but that same like polish onto, I guess. So it feels like even more frustrating in that light.
Yeah, there's different things like that where it's weird because like you said, I can see the amount of polish. Like they, with the most recent patch, all of a sudden they're teaching us how to use waystones. Like everybody went to
I
go
know
do
that
their
was
first
so
map, and
funny.
it's like pick up a waystone. And that tutorial, to be clear, for a new player, fantastic, absolutely amazing. Glad that it's in there. Some people were like annoyed that they were getting shown it when they're like, I have this many hours. I'm like, okay, guys, just put the waystone in, and it'll go away. It's fine. It's just once. But at the same time, we have those types of things. But then I enter my hideout after getting to maps, um, same hideout that I had from 0.4. And then I have this quest that keeps being like, you need to talk to Ange. You need to talk to Ange. I'm like, what do you mean? So I go back to King's March, I talk to Ange, nothing happens. And every time I enter my hideout, it's like, talk to Ange. I'm like, why? Why do I like? And then I realized, I was like, oh my God, I have a different NPC who does the Ange things because I have supporter packs. So Ange is not in my hideout. So I had to go in, spawn her in, talk to her, and then despawn her. I was like, holy shit, GGG. That cannot be like that. It's
Yeah.
just things like that that I'm like, guys, please. This is the
Yeah,
complaining section of the
that's
pod.
so
Sorry, guys,
funny.
but
Yeah, and to be clear, like, I do love the content. I do think the UI is better than I've seen from them in the past. I'm very excited about that. I think they learned a lot from the temple, just because the temple took so long to figure out that everyone was kind of complaining about the way it worked. Um, but yeah, I do there's a long ways to go to make these all feel very clear, and I still I want them to take even more inspiration from the 4X games. That was kind of an interesting, uh, I don't know, like, a lot of people on Reddit talking about the 4X, like, UI more and more was kind of interesting because I had thought about that early on, and then I just saw more and more people asking for it, and I was like, "Yes, peer pressure them into, like, really thinking about how these experiences work." Because like you said with the delirium thing where you select a map and then it, like, blobs out, like, there are solutions for that that exist in other games that, like, they could have added in, but they didn't, so, like, yeah, but there's also, like, the gambling part of the game makes it more complicated. Yeah, it's like it's there's a long way to go, but still it's in a good place, I think.
Yeah, I think with that delirium example specifically, like you're hovering over that single node like starting point, and it just shows you like kind of an outline of the fog of where the fog will go if you start here. Like that is all it needs for it to be fine for me. I said multiple times before they did the Atlas rework, people were talking about like performance and how to make the Infinite Atlas better. And I said, I have an idea. Can I make my Infinite Atlas look like strategic mode in Civ 6, please? Can I just make it look like that little like hexagon? Like that would solve a lot of problems with visibility and things like that. They solved it in their own way. The new Atlas is definitely way better than it was. But like I was also on that 4X train. I'm like, I know this can be done a lot better. If we're playing spreadsheets as a game, we should be playing spreadsheets as a game and like really go into the
Yeah.
UI.
Yeah, I think they're still trying to figure out where they want to draw the line between it looking very thematic and like within their art style, but also still accessible. And to be honest, Path of Exile has never been a super accessible game, so maybe they're just always going to lean more on the art style side. But I think that we're kind of like we could, like, pressure them into more of the, like, accessibility, visibility side of things than the art style, which is where they are now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're good. I think we're going to get there. Hopefully, Jonathan, Mark, if you're listening, hey, we love you. We appreciate you. Please keep doing what you're doing, but work on UI stuff, please. Thank you. Um, but yeah, so I think that wraps that up pretty well. We are at just over 90 minutes, so I wanted to see where you were at and if there's anything else that you wanted to touch on before we move to wind down here.
No, I'm good. I feel like I got a good yap out and also a good vent about UI, which is always fun.
Yeah, I it is definitely needed. I was having major UI issues literally today, and I was like, oh my god, I cannot wait for this podcast because I got to talk about some of this. Oh man.
Was it with Breach or was it with something else? Or was it
It was
Delirium?
with Breach this morning. I was like, oh my god,
Oh, yeah.
I cannot with this cursor thing because I was like, oh, it's better, and I was like, wait, but it's not better.
Stupid.
It's like
When
better
I
ish.
they were like, "We added in a quality of life to make it easier for more, womb gifts," and I went to click it, and I was like, "This is the strangest experience I've ever had in this game."
And I'm gonna be honest, the cursor looks like somebody made it in MS Paint.
Totally!
It looked like somebody took a PNG and just like made it like it did not look animated or like the quality of the same normal stuff.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was weird.
think their idea is like, this is a hidden interaction, but in my eyes, I was like, "This is just lazy."
Yeah, it's weird. Hopefully that will just get fixed super quick. But sweet. Well, we will wrap up here, but if you want to tell us and tell everybody where we can find you, what you are working on, if you got any projects coming up, and we'll wrap up here.
Yeah. I mean, you can find me on YouTube and Twitch, Halcyonish, obviously. And I'm the things that I'm working on now, I'm focusing a lot on streams. I have been super busy recently, so I haven't had as much time for YouTube videos, but I'm still planning on making content. My YouTube will never die. It will live on. I need to do some lore videos. That's what I have planned next is let's see what's in the Ruins of Eldor as far as the story goes, because I know that sometimes that stuff is hidden in the game. So if you would like an easier way to digest it, then that's where I come in.
Sounds great. I know multiple people in my chat when they heard about the pod, they're like, "Ooh, it's story time with Halcy." I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna have her
I
read
do
us a
have a
bedtime
story
story."
time. Yes, I do have a story time. I set it up as a podcast just because it's not super visual, but it is a lot of like creative writing that's based off of stuff that's actually happening in raid class. And it is actually a really great way to learn the lore in like a more enjoyable way than just like trying to piece together NPC conversations.
Fantastic. I know I have at least a few people in my community who are very excited to hear that. So it's super great. Well, I wanted to say thank you for coming on and yapping with me on the day that you're not normally making content. I appreciate it. But it was a great one, and we'll continue. We'll definitely try to as the game progresses into future patches, we'll try and do something again. And you've been great. I greatly appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun. And yeah, feel free to let me know if you have any other UI rants in you. I'm happy to listen.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we will wrap up here. Like she said, check her out, YouTube and Twitch at Halcyonish. And for everyone else on the YouTube side who is watching the VOD, I just want to say, remember, you cannot die if you don't get hit. So just don't get hit, or else we'll see you on the beach. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, evening, night, whatever it is.